So on your website, do you also have like links to useful books, like books with like that um, give historic context to place names and
I mean, I need to.
geographical?
I mean, on the website there is a place name interpreter. That is an
Oh wow.
it will deconstruct the place name into its elements and then give you a translation. So it's really rudimentary. It's
Mm.
like it looks at because most place names have got a couple of elements, and then it'll break them down. Do a lookup table in a dictionary of place names, and then give you the interpretation of what it means. And so you can also so for example, if you want to find places called chipping, typing chipping, and it would tell you this that is debatable, but I think it is true, an Anglo-Saxon market. So it's already telling you that it's been there
Wow.
a long time. Another thing is we both worked in, I think, at the National Archives. This was a Doomsday book.
Yeah.
Did you work on that?
We worked on
Yeah.
it together.
I mean, that's perfect. So a Doomsday place name means
Mm.
it's been there since 1060, was it 1078? I can't remember the exact date we did the census. So it's an old place.
Hmm.
Yeah, so there's that kind of thing, but there's not really. I don't really list other people's work because then I don't want to have any bias. So there's no bias. I put what is mine, what I can help with, and then the interpretation. People, I concentrate more on the technicalities of
Mm.
making it simple to go through the data and the imagery, and then present it in a way that is people can work with, and rather than trying to explain, because people don't often read a lot of text when they're browsing the web.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, tell me if this is right, but from what I was reading, apparently Norfolk is the best place in terms of the most number of finds in the UK.
I mean, I'm
Apparently,
not sure
they've
whether
had
the
over
most number.
100 a year.
I mean, that's treasure finds.
Hmm.
So I mean, there's it's going to be related to the number of detectorists and the size of the population for the county.
Ah,
So, but I imagine someone like Norfolk or Suffolk has got a lower population density, but higher treasure finds, and that's mainly when we talk about treasure, we talk about Roman treasure,
yeah.
Celtic, it's Iron Age. That's what we really mean, not so much medieval. When they
Mm,
say, and that's because of the trade links between the continent. That's the main, and also because it's where the most powerful people would live because it's got the best climate. It's got lighter soils, but the main thing is the trade links going right back to the Iron Age and before. So that's why
interesting.
Suffolk has been. It was also remembered that it would be the Suffolk Kent coast will be the landing site for the Germanic tribes and the Anglian tribes who came to England in the post-Roman period, straight after the post-Roman period. So it's a good landing spot, but the main thing is the trade links
Yeah.
with
And
with the,
apparently, so Coventry, Bristol, and York have not had a single find in the past 3 years, according to the site I was reading. Is that because they're more modern towns, or what's going on?
I mean, it's probably more to do. That's surprising. I would have to look at the
Mm.
size of look at what York means. Does York include rural areas? And if it doesn't, if the area called York doesn't include rural areas, then people aren't going to find anything unless they
Yeah,
find it in their back
because
garden.
everything's built over, isn't it? No.
Yeah, and Coventry is very highly populated and
Yeah.
a lot of building there. There probably is. It would be worth looking at it from a geographical perspective and seeing which rivers go through Coventry. And if
Hmm.
there's no rivers, because you're looking at ancient history, they tend to be associated with riverine routes.
And what about like equipment? So if someone's wanting to start this kind of on a um, like a hobby amateur basis, but semi seriously, what kind of equipment would you recommend?
I mean, it can vary. I mean, I personally would recommend a second-hand detector. So
Really?
don't buy a cheap brand new detector.
Oh, okay. Buy expensive secondhand one.
And by expensive, I mean £200 to £300. That will do
Hmm.
you, because then the next thing to do is find somewhere to detect. So and you don't need a really powerful and fancy detector. if you're in the right place, because the plow will bring up the finds to the surface, and then the finds are going to generally be within the range of most detectors, including the less expensive ones. So I'd always say maybe £300 second-hand one, maybe 400 tops, and then you want one which has got good iron discrimination. It would discriminate iron out. So some of the old laser models are pretty good like that.
What does that do? So it distinguishes between types of metal.
Yeah, it distinguishes between. It's got the lasers have got really good iron discrimination. So because if you're detected in an area, you don't want to be digging up bits of iron all the time.
Yeah.
Because then you're wasting your time, kind of thing. So that's my recommendation. A lot of people would say, well, you need a really powerful detector, but my issue with that is that a powerful detector will give you a lot of signals, and if you're inexperienced, you may get so frustrated about digging up pieces of coke and bits of iron that you may just give up.
And so how far down can they detect?
I mean, this is always an area of discussion, but in my experience, say for example, a pound coin, with that weight, you might get down to 6 inches.
Okay.
I mean, I've dug things down to a foot, and the reason why I've done that is because when I was digging it, I didn't center on. I missed the point. I didn't pinpoint where the coin was. So what it was doing, it was falling down the hole as I dug. So I mean, really, and it depends on the nature of it. If you've got flat soil, like pasture, it can go deeper because the soil is compressed. If you've got newly ploughed soil, then it may only be a couple of inches. But if you're in a good place and you're in what they term a hot spot, and then it doesn't really matter about the depth. In some cases, depth, which is generally what people mean by power, what they pay for, is what you don't want, because you don't want to be digging for an hour, half an hour, and then dig up a ploughshare, because it's a lot of work, and I've no unless it's a ploughshare of archaeological significance, which is most iron, isn't it? Unless you X-ray it.
Yeah. So when you detect something with a device, does it also tell you how far down the item is? Like, or will it just go beep, beep, beep? And you don't know, it could be 6 inches, it could be a foot down.
Well, it makes different kind of noises depending on the detector, and depending on the metal. So some cheaper detectors will just give the same beep for iron and gold, for example, because they haven't got good discrimination. Other detectors like the XPs will give a low pitch for iron, and they'll give it a nice ring. They actually sound. Maybe they've programmed into it. They sound like something nice.
Yeah.
So it's then you need to interpret the sound yourself, and that comes with experience.
So you need to be familiar with your equipment and.
I'm familiar with that, but there's also there's a few. You need to have a bit of skill with it. It's more of an art. It's more of an art. You get used to the detector, and it's almost like you just learn it without really trying to learn it. It just comes to you. Again, you get go on.
Yeah, so slightly different, taking a detour, but I've actually heard in urban centers, it's a big thing at the moment where people break into someone's house with metal detectors. And then, especially with Asian people, they like to have jewelry and things like that in the home, and they think it's secure and it's tucked away somewhere. But these thieves come with metal detectors, and they can find out exactly pinpoint where the thing is and take that.
I remember you asking me about that.
We had a conversation
a few years ago.
Yeah, because I was trying to solve this problem. I was thinking, because I actually had a friend then, and that's what happened with her parents. Basically, her mom and dad, elderly people, they had some jewelry that was passed on from generations, and they took like a floor panel out from one of the steps and put it tucked away under the step, and they were thinking, this is brilliant, no one's ever going to find it here. And someone came in with a metal detector, didn't touch the rest of the house, just found exactly where it was and just took it. And I was thinking, this is horrible. Like, what's the solution?
Well, there's a whole science there's a whole science and art to treasure hunting, like in houses. So, and there's obvious places people, or my first impression would be, well, where do people generally hide things anyway throughout history?
Yeah.
It would be
And
somewhere
we're the
that's
same, aren't we?
accessible
Yeah.
under the step,
Hmm.
or often a usual place would be in the roof, in the
Yeah.
eaves of the roof. So the problem with having a metal detector in the house is that you wouldn't know where to start because there's metal all over the house. There's wiring in the walls. There's copper piping.
Yeah. So
So
would the
that
metal
was,
detector tell them that like now we're getting signals of gold or this is copper or?
I mean, some of them do, but I think for if it's a mass, like
Mhm.
like you suggested, then it would. I don't think it's going to be able to tell what it is.
Okay.
I mean, one day hopefully that'll come. I mean, that's some detectors do give a visual indication of what it is: a ring pull or a coin or a piece of rubbish. But I think, from my experience, it's better just to go off the sound of it
I
and the
actually,
context.
yeah. So when I had this conversation with you a few years ago, because basically at that time I saw this problem, and because I'm involved in Amazon and things like that, I was thinking there must be a solution. There must be something we can invent that can kind of cover the treasure to stop the rays getting through so that it can't be detected. That's what was on my mind at the time. So then I spoke with you, and then I called one of my cousins in Pakistan who's actually in the army, and he's in charge of finding landmines and things like that. So he has some knowledge about like
Mm,
detecting metal and things like that. So the advice he was giving, I don't know what you think, but he was saying if you're going to put some jewelry or something in the house, then put it first of all, put it somewhere where there's going to be lots of other metal anyway. Maybe like put
that's.
it inside at the bottom of the washing machine, or put it somewhere and put lots of nails around it so that everything's going to go beep beep beep.
I mean, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. But I'd like to see. I mean, without giving them any credit,
Mhm.
to use a detector to find treasure, to try and to find a
Mhm.
cache in someone's house.
Is it hard? Do you think it's not going to
Yeah,
be an
I
easy
think
thing?
I wouldn't even bother. I wouldn't even try it. I just
Honestly,
just look in the usual places where would hide something.
yeah.
Like I say, it's always
But
under
you
the.
have skill that these people don't have. You're like the Indiana Jones of.
But there's a whole, because when I was up in the archives, I read that I looked up treasure finds in buildings, and like I said, there's a pattern. There's a pattern in where people would hide things in buildings,
Hmm.
um, and there's a whole science about where people would hide hoards. It stems from the army, where they would bury a cache, they would hide a cache of arms to come back to, but then
Yeah.
they'd have to look at the the geographical markers like rocks and trees, and so that they'd know where it was. I think it's similar with treasure. You know, if it's near a landmark, which would have been there for 2,000 years, 20 paces along a road,
Hmm.
all that kind of thing, 20 paces along a path. It's
Wow.
common sense, but there are some factors that are
Yeah.
generic
What
to.
about like old houses? We've got like um, residential buildings in this country that are like hundreds of years old. Um, you think there'd be stuff there in the garden or something?
I think, I mean, there would be stuff there, but it'd be a nightmare. It'd be a nightmare because I've done gardens before.
Hmm.
Once I did it once, that was enough, because there's so much rubbish in gardens. You got the rubbish from when they constructed the house, so you would need to probably take off the first foot of soil,
Oh
take
wow!
off that, and then roll it so it's compressed, and then
Then start.
maybe if you did that in York, it went to York and then went to the garden in York or Coventry, took off the first couple of feet in a big garden,
Mm.
then you might start finding stuff in those places.
Wow.